5.
Curry hits a three.
4.
Just for the drive. Deep left field.
3.
Patrick hit by Watt. Sack number 10.
2.
Messi with a record-breaking goal.
1.
Welcome to BSS Sports. Now, here are your hosts, Steve and Trevor.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of BSS Sports. My name is Steve and Schill with the ever-lovely Trevor, Struthers, and Derek Jeter of the hated Yankees. I don't even want to talk about this, but the fact he's a Yankee, I guess, you know, for some reason, it's more the fact that he's been around for 20 years. He's won 5 World Series titles, had over 3,000 hits with the Yankees, and he's been generally a pest for the Blue Jays. So the Bronx retire. Number 2, Trevor, is this a momentous day in baseball history?
Well, I mean, like it or not, I think many people, excluding even Yankee fans, would say Derek Jeter was kind of the best player of that past generation. Like him or not, he was always kind of overrated defensively as to how he actually played. He was a tremendous offensive shortstop, obviously. Nobody will argue that, what he was able to do offensively, home run-wise, hits-wise. But his defense was never really that great. I mean, obviously he had some spectacular plays like diving into seats and stuff like that, coming up with miraculous catches. But overall, his overall defense was not up to par. But, it is kind of a day because, I'm kind of starting to feel a little bit older. I didn't watch Derek Jeter when he started out, but a good chunk of my childhood was growing up watching Derek Jeter and the Yankees have success, unfortunately. And obviously that has come full circle here today with the Yankees retiring his number 2. And the Yankees are kind of in a way the Montreal Canadiens of the MLB, where at some point they're going to run out of numbers and have to use decimal points like in that one Futurama episode. But, at this point here, the Yankees obviously have a storied history. I don't know where Derek Jeter ranks among those other Yankees, but, he definitely had the kind of career that should be honored by the organization, and he has his number retired. And in my opinion, as much as, Blue Jays fans, Red Sox fans, you learn to love to hate Derek Jeter, he was a tremendous player on the field.
3 years ago was when he hung up the glove, which doesn't really seem like it was that long ago, but it was 3 years, which is pretty nuts. So, the Yankees still ahead of the Blue Jays, at least so far this season, but the Jays, they're kind of changing things around. They're on a 5-game winning streak. Much brighter note than the last time we talked about them. Kevin Pillar with the home run in the bottom of the 9th yesterday to take the Blue Jays to that 5-game winning streak. And it just seems that the Kendry Morales deal is looking to be one of the best things the Jays have done. Looking at it, you could say, okay, maybe Edwin might have a home run or 2 more. But so far, Kendry Morales is really working out, and Justin Smoak is getting playing time, and he has 6 home runs thus far. So, the team is slowly coming together in kind of a different look than last year. But are you happy going forward?
Yeah, getting Aaron Sanchez back too is obviously a big deal as well. We know what he can provide in the rotation and finding, stop gaps to kind of make things work. Joe Biagini, fantastic personality, strong reliever. What a pickup that was out of the Rule 5 draft, but just over about a year ago, I guess, because last year would have been his first year with the team. But, he was a fantastic arm out of the bullpen, and out of desperation, they have to move him into the rotation, and they're slowly stretching him out, but he is finding ways to perform there. They sweep the Seattle Mariners, which was nice, I'm sure, for Justin Smoak to sweep his former team. And, there's a guy there that a lot of people last year, when they gave him that extension and saw the money, weren't very happy with really keeping Smoak around at all. But, Smoak is a guy. He's like a 3-outcome guy is what you hear about him. He's either going to hit a home run, he's going to walk, or he's going to strike out. And he's found a way to connect so far with some big home runs. And, that's the game Justin Smoak kind of plays as well. He's not really a singles hitter, not even really a doubles hitter. So that's the kind of game he provides, but it can also help out. About Kendry Morales, though, and a lot of people obviously give hate towards management for how the whole Edwin thing played out. That was entirely, in my opinion, agent-related, where they turned down a deal with the Blue Jays that ultimately would have given them more than what they got with Cleveland, but they kind of overjudged the market, which, in my opinion, always goes back to the agent, because it's always the agent telling the player, what the market, what their take on him is in that market with particular teams, right? So there was that, and so Edwin ends up taking something less to go to Cleveland ultimately, because the Blue Jays, after Edwin turned down that deal, they're like, what if we don't bring this guy back? We need somebody to be there. Jose Bautista was still up in the air at the time, so they go out and get Kendrys Morales. And Kendrys Morales is a guy that has had success, with Kansas City. He was able to have a fantastic season and a lot of team success there as well. And I mean, here he is now in a smaller ballpark, and I mean, you can put any solid hitter into Rogers Center, and they're instantly better because it is a hitter's ballpark, a smaller ballpark with a great batter's eye. So, Kendrys Morales is taking advantage of that. He's going to have fantastic power numbers this season. That just goes without saying. And about Edwin Encarnacion, I mean, his numbers will probably end up declining in Cleveland just because it's a tougher division to hit, and not necessarily pitcher-wise, but ballpark-wise. Detroit has a big ballpark. I mean, you don't have those bandboxes that you do with Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, Rogers Center. So, I mean, right there's going to be a decline in his power numbers, and Kendrys Morales, his is going to increase, and we're seeing it right now.
And switching over to hockey, is it too early to say that the Ottawa Senators are going to win the 2017 Stanley Cup?
I don't think it is. I mean, at this point, really anything can happen. I think that goes without saying. Nashville is probably even, you could argue, the favorite out of the West, for crying out loud, and that's something that we didn't think going into the playoffs, but with how they've kind of caught fire, now you never know how that's going to play out. On the other side, with the Ottawa Senators, what they've been able to do, sometimes it makes you scratch your head. They were able to take advantage of a Boston team that was weak on the blue line. They go up against the Rangers, which is a very formidable opponent. They took out the Montreal Canadiens, mainly because Montreal had nothing beyond Carey Price, and they couldn't put the puck in the net. But the Senators have found ways, and that's something they struggled with all season, was to put the puck in the net, and that's something they've found ways to do here in the playoffs. They put up a fantastic show, making Henrik Lundqvist look human, which is never easy to do, but ultimately Lundqvist coming up shy of another potential Stanley Cup run. And now, I mean, here they find themselves in the Eastern Conference Final. And, I mean, Pittsburgh is another team that's beat up on that blue line. Trevor Daley may be coming back at some point during the series, but he's not there right now. Chris Letang's not there on that blue line. They have Marc-Andre Fleury in goal. Matt Murray's healthy now, so he's backing up. And he obviously took them to that Stanley Cup last year. But Marc-Andre Fleury isn't the goaltender that had the Stanley Cup back in 2009. He's not that same level of goaltender, and Craig Anderson has the potential to be better. This is the deepest Anderson has gone in the playoffs. He's almost 40 years old. He knows that he may never get another shot at that, and say what you will, but that obviously plays a factor in your mind and your focus and your ability to be ready to play, because you don't know if you're ever going to get back to something like this. Bobby Ryan has really made, I mean, he had a disappointing regular season. He's really turned that around here in the playoffs with his performance. He's now got 2 overtime winning goals, obviously playing a huge part in their 9 wins so far this postseason. And that's a huge contributor. And in my opinion, he's now worth that contract. Even though he had a horrible regular season, he's paying it off here in the playoffs, and it's leading to some very exciting times for Senators fans.
And that's the thing I was going to mention. Bobby Ryan making the Senators go 6-1 with that overtime winner yesterday to win over the Penguins 2-1. But I think the big thing with the Senators run is they're 6-1. Is there anybody that thought the Senators would be that good so far?
Yeah, 6-1 in overtime games. I mean, it really goes to show you just how much they're playing with fire. I mean, for crying out loud, 8 of their 9 wins this postseason have been 1-goal games. This team is a team that's played with fire all postseason, and at some point, you can make the argument, it kind of feels like a team of destiny that they're here with all these games being 1-goal games that can't even, in most scenarios, add an empty netter onto it. And I mean, that one win that was not a 1-goal game was Game 6 against the Rangers, where they did score an empty netter. So, I mean, that technically was also a 1-goal game. So they're just finding ways to squeak by, but it's working. And, I mean, I think the plan mentally for a lot of people on the Senator side, whether it be fans, management, players, is go in there and get at least one in Pittsburgh. You can't go back to Ottawa, down 2-0 to Pittsburgh, and have to try to take a numerous amount of games from them. You're essentially having to put together a huge winning streak just to get back in that series, and maybe take a lead in it. So they don't fall down 2-0. They get that first game, which is huge on the road. They now have home ice advantage in the series until they were to lose in Ottawa, and so that's obviously a huge factor in their mind. I mean, they won every game in the last series against the Rangers on home ice, and a couple of them Saturday afternoon spectacular fashions with a couple overtime wins. And this is a team that's just finding a way to make it work. Obviously, they have the tremendous stories that we keep talking about. They have the Craig Anderson story, the Clark MacArthur story, and like I said, I mean, Bobby Ryan, he's kind of got a bit of a story now as well, with what he's been able to provide here in the playoffs. And I mean, this is a team right now that seems to be firing. I mean, obviously, we haven't even talked about Erik Karlsson, and Erik Karlsson at this point has to be, I mean, obviously, if the Senators were to find a way to win the Cup, he wins the Conn Smythe hands down. I mean, he is the MVP of the playoffs in a lot of people's opinions so far, which, I mean, finally he's getting the just due, the just desserts that he gets, because, I mean, obviously, I watch the Ottawa Senators a lot, and so I get to enjoy Erik Karlsson almost on a nightly basis during the regular season. But, I mean, not every team gets to do that, right? And so now here they are in the Final Four, and there's only one game every night. The Senators right now are one of those one games every night, and they're playing, and Erik Karlsson's there. He's got a broken foot, but he's still outstanding and finding a way to contribute. And it's incredible to watch that this guy would win. If the voting wasn't already done for the Norris, he would win the Norris now hands down. There's no doubt about that. Brent Burns may end up winning this year's Norris because the voting obviously was done after the regular season, but Erik Karlsson is the best defenseman on the planet. It goes without saying.
Now, switching over to NBA news, the San Antonio Spurs. Oh, the Spurs. So not only did they lose the first game of the Western Conference NBA Finals, they lost their team MVP Kawhi Leonard during the third quarter of that first game. Golden State, the other team that they're facing, and Steph Curry, the reigning MVP for the past two seasons, scored a whopping 40 points. Now, the notable part of this is after Kawhi left the game due to an ankle injury in the third quarter, the Warriors went on an 18-0 run, inevitably winning the game by a mere 2 points, 113 to 111. Trevor, does it show that every team needs one of those superstars? We're talking Paul George, we're talking obviously Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Kevin Durant to an extent, even though there's Steph Curry there now. Does it solidify the fact that you need to have that superstar to make things like this not happen?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, everybody, including myself, is starting to sound redundant when it comes to this topic. But yeah, you can't win in the NBA without it. When you have guys playing like 40 minutes a game potentially, that they obviously can control a game if they're that, a player that can dominate the floor when they're out there. If the Raptors had like an Erik Karlsson of basketball, essentially, is the hockey comparison I'll try to make here, is they would be right up there as well. If they had like a LeBron James, somebody like that can control a game. They don't really have that. They have solid players. DeMar DeRozan's a borderline star, but he's not at that superstar level of Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, LeBron James, even a Kyrie Irving. And so, I mean, that's why everybody knew going into the playoffs, and everybody knows now that the final will be Golden State and Cleveland battling it out for another NBA championship, just like it has been the last couple of years, and like it will probably continue to be for the next few years as well. It's just that's the bottom line. Unless there's obviously injuries, they can always play a factor. With those players, if they're on the court, that's what's going to happen unless like a superstar comes from out of nowhere. Maybe Andrew Wiggins can become like a superstar level player and help contribute in a way like that. But yeah, I mean, it goes without saying. And San Antonio, I mean, I was watching that game, and you watch in the third quarter, and you're like, hey, maybe San Antonio could actually maybe give Golden State a run for their money here in the series. Then everything went to hell in a handbasket, and they ended up losing that game. And Now you wonder if they can find a way to even try to win the series. Can they push it to 6 games even? And I mean, that's something I don't even know if they can do against this deep Golden State Warriors team. And obviously, a lot of it relies on what's going to happen with Kawhi Leonard. But I mean, as long as he's out of the lineup, they don't stand a chance, in my opinion, against that deep of a team in the Warriors.
So, I mean, obviously, we live in a strange world. That's something that everybody knows. And the Eastern Conference, the opposite of the Western Conference, hasn't even reached the title series yet. They're going to a Game 7, but for some reason the Western Conference is like, you know what, we're the better one all season, yada, 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 we're going to win the title. So they're starting early, and obviously they've already played their first game. But the Celtics and the Washington Wizards are going to Game 7 to find out who is going to take on LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers for the Eastern Conference Finals. And so far, whoever has been the home team has won the game in this Wizards-Celtics series, and the game's going to be played in TD Garden tonight in Boston. So, Trevor, that would mean that Boston should take this. Is the NBA a sport where home field matters more than others, or is it just the same as any other sport?
You can make the argument, really, home field advantage or home ice advantage, whatever you want to say, doesn't matter almost really at all.
Well, in football, maybe.
Maybe, because, I mean, obviously, every sport, it differs, obviously, due to different rules. But, I mean, in hockey, per se, I mean, you get last change. But apart from that, and obviously, you're the majority of the crowd is your fans that are screaming and yelling. But really, I mean, what kind of thing does that do in terms of your ability to go out there and play well? I mean, really, I don't think it contributes to that much at all. I mean, really, in basketball, it really depends who's the best player in a game that can really help control that. And in my opinion, I think Washington finds a way to do it.
That's it for this edition of BSS Sports. Make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, archiving all of our works on YouTube at BSS Productions. For Trevor Struthers and myself, Stephen Schill, we'll catch you next Monday.